Hey everybody, it's Professor Halen from Fredonia. Just want to talk a little bit today about getting set up with the bass. I hope this will be particularly helpful for public school teachers or anyone teaching, young bass players, people starting for the first time of any age. Obviously, we all know that getting set up with the instrument appropriately in terms of how the bass interacts with your body is really more important than sort of anything else, right? Because if that's not there, nothing else is going to work. I do this all the time here at Fredonia because I teach the secondary instrument class for bass. This is a class for music ed majors that are not bass principals that have to learn about the bass and how to teach the bass for their future teaching positions. So one of the things that I like to think about is that in a way, the bass and the way it interacts with you is not going to be terribly different when you're standing and when you're sitting. There are some differences, but some of the same principles will apply, and I'll share those with you. But we're going to start with standing. I do mostly standing in the class, mainly because most of the folks in that class here at Fredonia will go out and be public school teachers, and the opportunities for good stools that are the right height, stools that can be transported back and forth with parents just doesn't tend to work out. So I like to teach them how to really stand comfortably. First thing I like to do is imagine that there's a little bit tough with the camera angle here, but that there's a compass on the floor, and that the end pin of the bass is directly in the center of the compass, right? And then the bridge of the bass should be facing north, or north on the floor is aligned with the bridge, however you want to think about it. And then I recommend that students stand behind the bass and over to this side, whatever that means to you. Watching the video, you can think of it from this perspective on the right side of the bass, from my perspective. So you're standing behind the bass on the right, and also, sort of at a diagonal, right? And what I like to say is that the bass will lean not only south direction on that compass, but also east, right? So you're here dead center, it's south and east. And if many of you know I'm a little bit of a gearhead, so sometimes I like to say it's also reverse in a car with a manual transmission, right? If you're here at neutral, you're coming over here, there's reverse, right? Unless it's a Volkswagen, then you're going to be way out here, but that's a different story. So as much as we love German music. Yeah, so south and east, and then this corner of the bass right here on the back, between the back and the side, this corner will meet your belt line just left of center, okay, this side of the buckle, when you're standing. And it's important, I think, to talk about the corner, because if you have the flat part of the bass against you, the back, then it's likely to be rotated way out away from you. And if you have the other flat dimension, the side, against you, then it's going to be rotated too far in. Torque your left hand, and you get there, and the bow will feel great on the upper strings, but you go to play on the A and E strings, and you'll be running into your own leg. So that's why I like to think about the corner of the bass meeting your belt line, just left of center. And that's really it. I think it's important for standing. There are many different ways to stand. I've just found this to be a simple and a practical, quick way to get people moving on the bass, because we don't have a lot of time in those classes, as I'm sure my other professor colleagues will agree. So once you're up and moving like this, then you have the bass basically set, so if you let go of it, it will only go either forward or backward. It's not going to go out away from you. Sometimes if the bass is too vertical, it wants to go that way, and that can be very stressful on the left hand, as well as that big angle you feel from the verticality of the bass, okay? So there you go. So just to review, compass on the floor, bridge pointing north. You stand behind the bass and to the right. Bass is straight up and down. You're going to go back towards south and east, or reverse if you're a gearhead like me, right? So south and east, and there you go. Okay, so that's standing. And then really, when I sit, I sit kind of low on a special stool. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, it's over here. But I've got my standard Home Depot special here, okay? Straight ahead stool. I believe this is 30 inches tall, which I think is a little bit tall for most students. I tend to get people sitting a little bit lower, but this is just sort of your run-of-the-mill what you'll find in stock at stores. Sitting on the stool itself, we'll just talk about that before we bring the base in. I like to put it on an angle like this, so that when I sit down, I'm directly over one of the legs. The leg is right under my core, under my center. And then you have the nice ability to put your foot up on the rung, and it's all nice and square, and it's not torqued sideways or anything. And that tends to be good. So, you know, left foot up on the lower rung. If you have, I have a pretty long leg, so I get a pretty good bend out of that. If you have a shorter student, they may need to go up here to get a little bit more of that nice sort of support for the base in the leg. Right leg down. You know, sometimes I see people sit like this. I sit like that with both feet down. And really, of course, that's very much dependent on body type. But again, sort of down the center, something like this will be a good way to start. So over the corner, left foot up on the lower rung. And then really the same things apply. If you start up here, you go south and you go east. And for me, the main difference when you're sitting down from when you're standing up is that corner of the base that we talked about will be a little bit flatter, and it'll meet your belt line just right of center, other side of your button, right? So it's like this, and it's actually a little bit closer to you. And actually, what's one of my reasons I really like sitting when I play the bass, because I feel like it's all closer to me. I have a lot of leverage. I can really be sort of on top of the bass and feel very comfortable and grounded when I play, which is good too. So there you go. I hope this is helpful to you. Feel free to shoot me a note. You can find my email on the Fredonia website if you have any questions. Eventually, we'll talk a little bit about setting up the left hand and setting up the right hand. So